I was wondering if maybe the only reason why they did that tour is because Wolfgang is old enough to play bass in the band. I mean, maybe Eddie was so just loving the idea of jamming with his son, and maybe that's the only reason why it happened. Maybe otherwise,
yeah, well, I know that's probably had a big part to do with it. I mean, if I had my son like that, and to be able to come out and play, that's one thing. But there are other things involved too. I think why they did it. Of course, it was weird at first and whatever. I mean, actually, the strangest part was that when they announced it, and you go on their website, they took me off of the album covers and stuff. That I couldn't understand. That they would want to sweep that under the carpet and have the fans think that I was never even part of the band.
That was so bizarre. And so wrong and ridiculous.
They obviously realized what happened because within a day or two it was back.
It sure was. Yeah. Within as soon as everybody started complaining, less than 24 hours later, they reversed that.
Yeah, hurt the most out of that whole thing,
with the album cover thing.
Was that they would go to that extent to try to erase me from the history of the band. But I'm very proud of everything. Sammy, Dave, and Gary. The album with Gary wasn't received as well as the other ones, but I had fun with that too. We went out and actually that tour with Gary, we went out and played a lot of the Van Halen stuff we hadn't done since Dave was in the band, and that was a lot of fun. Gary and I became great friends, and we hung out a lot. And Gary and I are still great friends. We speak every now and then. We don't talk that much. They were just in L.A., and unfortunately I was out of town. He invited me to come and see the Extreme over. I think they played the House of Blues, and if I would have been in town, I would have gone over there. I probably would have ended up getting up and jamming with them too. They're great guys. But why sit and whine about it? It's like, okay, that's they chose that path, and I don't know. I guess according to them, I chose the path to hang out with Sammy. I chose to be happy.
Yeah.
And have fun. But for whatever reason, and if it ever does happen, that'd be great. But it's going to be under circumstances where everything is up and up across the board and no bullshit.
In your opinion, it wasn't that, I'm guessing, it wasn't that you say, I'm either going to stay in Van Halen and probably do nothing, or I'm going to jam with Sammy. Like, you didn't think it was either or, right? You thought, I'm going to go have fun with Sammy, and then I'm still in Van Halen. If we're going to tour, I'm going to, no problem.
When we weren't doing anything, that's how I looked at it. And when I first reconnected with Sammy again, and actually went out and played with him, he said, hey, God, it'd be great. Come out and we'll jam a couple songs. And I thought, hey, great. I'm going to go out and we're going to play a couple Van Halen songs and the fans are going to be, pleased, and the band's not going to go away or fade away or whatever, and we'll keep it out there. That's the way I looked at it. I didn't look at it like, I'm going to go behind their back and play the music and make some money off it, whatever. See, that was never my intention. And Eddie especially thought I was, it was the big betrayal, the big traitor. Here he goes with Sammy, and hey. I didn't care to be sitting on my hands at home any longer. I wanted to get out and play. And this was a way to just at least go out and have some fun, play the stuff, and give the fans what they wanted to hear.
So maybe the brothers felt that it was like you betrayed them, but the rest of the world didn't feel that way at all. They saw that you just wanted to have fun instead of do nothing for a year.
Yeah. And I just looked at it like, hey, I'm always proud to go out and play some of the Van Halen songs. I've gone to a club here and there, even when we're on tour. If we have a day off, sometimes I'll go out and I'll end up on stage with a band playing a Van Halen song or whatever.
You'll join the Atomic Punks for a night or any tribute band?
And then I played with the Punks on many occasions,
Okay, when you were working with Roth in 2000 or so, when you guys were recording...
Was that for the Bob Best Of?
No, this is like 4 years. This is after that, where that was Me, Wise Magic, and Can't.
Oh, okay.
So this is when you guys were thinking of doing an album with Roth, and nobody even knew it at the time.
When we were trying.
Secret. Yeah. And how are those songs, and what do you think of that?
We had some pretty decent ideas going, but you know what? I think at that point it was just, after a while it was like, well, Dave's being Dave again. And it was just old things were coming up, and when we did the two songs, the best of, we were actually going to shoot videos for them, and Dave started making some demands and whatever, and it just started getting out of hand again, and then we had to put the brakes on because we were going to do videos for both those songs,
right?
And we just had to stop it because it just started to, this is why this happened, and this is why that happened, and not going to let that kind of stuff happen again. So let's just stop it right now.
There was a big blow up at that award show in September, and
Oh, the MTV.
Yeah.
Yeah. Originally, they just wanted Ed and Dave to go to it, and Ed goes, no. He goes, Al, you and Mike are both coming too, man. I'm not going to do this alone with Dave. And it was kind of funny because what the people watching didn't see, because they would show the screen from the nominees, is Dave dancing and doing all his stuff. Besides that, and we're all kind of just like, well, okay. And then for whatever reason, Ed and Dave had their little altercation afterwards when we were going through the press junket, through the press night, and and Dave, everyone was asking Ed about his hip and what was going on there, and Ed was saying, I'm going to get it fixed, and we're not going to see past that right now because we're going to take it a step at a time. And Dave wanted more. He wanted it to be more about him or whatever, and next thing I know is like, wham bam, we're leaving the awards. It was a quiet ride back to the hotel, and I remember, I know Eddie and Al stayed the next day in New York, and I remember telling our tour manager, I said, get my ass. If I would have been able to just go straight to the airport and hop a plane, I would have, because it was kind of embarrassing, and it was just like, it's like, oh my God, here we go, except almost tenfold, because it all just exploded that night. So I remember I told my tour manager, just get me the earliest flight out of here that you can in the morning, because this is just a really cool thing, and I know maybe some of it might have had to do with right before we walked out on stage and presented the award, I saw Dave chugging a big old cup of Jack. I'm okay, here we go.
So were you thinking, well, I guess we're not going to reunite with Dave now?
Well, it wasn't looking too good after that night,
Wow.
and that was kind of like, we just kind of.
Had you been looking forward to doing a tour with Dave at that time?
At first, yeah. It was like, it'd be cool,
Yeah. And why did it all fall apart 4 years later in 2000 when you were recording some songs with Dave?
Because it was kind of the same thing in the studio, just and like I said, I don't like to point fingers like I'm already doing here, right? But it was just getting along in the studio, and mostly Dave's personality clashing with Ed and whatever. It was just
Dave and Ed's personality clashing was the main reason.
I think that. Not Dave and Ed, Dave and everybody else.
Right.
Just the whole ball of wax, and so.
So how great was the music that you guys were doing then?
A lot of it was really good and shaping up to be really good. But and we demoed up a couple of things. I'm sure I've got a demo at home too. I don't know. Maybe I should pull it out and listen to it. But I think we pulled the plug before we could really get deep into really, getting it going.
Yeah. Was that some of the music that you guys were doing with Gary a year before that? Or new music?
There was new music being written with Gary, but actually I remember Dave was pulling that whole thing, saying that we had planned it that way to bring Gary in and force him out, and we had this stuff written or whatever. But that was never the intention. It just wasn't working. And of course Ed was always working on material, so it wasn't like, okay, well, we're going to use, this will be for Gary now. It was never the intent. So.
All right.